One more segment for this week on Bang the Book Radio. That is with Brent from DSI Sportsbook. He's the head risk manager down there in Costa Rica. We're looking at the conference championship games for the NFC and the AFC. Also talked a little bit about some Super Bowl lines and some Super Bowl futures exposure for the book. So without further ado, here is our final segment of the week with Brent from DSI Sportsbook. All right, I'm joined by Brent from DSI Sportsbook for this week's version of the Odds Report. Brent, how's it going today, man?
Doing wonderfully well, Adam. Thanks for having me on once again.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming back on the program here. And, again, not a whole lot to talk about here this weekend. We've got the NFC Conference Championship game, Rams and Saints. AFC Conference Championship game, Patriots and Chiefs. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. Game 311, 312. Saints favorite at home against the Rams. What's the story for this game, Brent?
It's kind of cool, I guess. Sometimes when you get to this point, you've got teams facing each other who faced each other already in the regular season. So that's kind of like a neat thing to look back and okay, what happened last time these guys played? I mean, it's not like I wouldn't suggest that that's a great handicapping tool, but I mean, there are certain things you can kind of look in there and see, what worked and what didn't, in kind of terms of the adjustments that might be made. Now, you don't necessarily what adjustments the coaches are gonna make, but you kind of get a feel at least for what worked and what didn't work. In terms of the line itself, it really hasn't moved a whole lot. It did open New Orleans -3.5, and we're ticked down to where New Orleans is -3, -120. So just a slight blip off that number down to the key number of 3 where we are now. I did take what I'm going to call pseudo sharp money on the Rams at that point. Now I can't say I can't really read someone's mind and say whether it was just a price grab, knowing the number was going to come down or not. But +3.5 was a guy who I have a whole lot of respect for. He's not like the top say 10 guys who we have in terms of list guys, what have you. But he's a guy we respect a whole lot. So that if I was going to have a lean right now, I would say that is the sharper side at that number. Though everything's always relative to the number. So at the +3.5 -110, like I said, a pseudo sharp grab on the Rams there. Total really hasn't budged at all. I mean, we opened 56.5. I think that went up to 57 and back down to 56.5. So it really hasn't moved at all. Again, we talked about how these teams have been able. We had the kind of reference point of going back to these teams playing each other before, and that was back in November. New Orleans won that game by 10 points at home. Here we are in New Orleans again. They scored, I think it was 80 points in that game. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, the number maybe ticks up basically if sharp money gets involved. Right now, in terms of ticket count at least, I've got about 60% of my wagers on the over and 40 towards the under.
So in terms of the spread for this, I mean, are we closing 3 with extra juice? Are we closing 3.5? What do you envision here?
I imagine it'll stay kind of where it is. Again, unless someone, real sharp guy comes in and grabs something. I can't see it going back to 3.5. I think we're going to stick to 3 with the juice. It might tick up from 3 where we are right now, 3 -20 up to 3 -1/4. But even looking at my bet count on this game in terms of the sides, I'm as dead even as can be. I mean, the case is pretty much the same with New England and Kansas City as well. Both of these games in terms of the counts, the actual number of bets we've taken on the sides, almost dead even on both these games.
Now, something that's going to be interesting to consider here, and we kind of saw this a little bit last week where people wanted to play the dogs, kind of lowered some of those money line favorite prices a little bit. But with the 3 and extra juice here on New Orleans, I mean, that kind of limits how low this money line can go. I mean, you should get Rams money line action because people want to just, bet the underdog outright. What about that? What about from a money line standpoint? How are you seeing this thing shake out?
Yeah, it's interesting because the college national championship, of course, and all 4 games last week were situations where we had a lot of dog money. We needed all 4 favorites to win those games outright. So that worked out for us. But this game, we've got these 2 games where the lines are quite a bit lower. I mean, before when they were taking, +240 and +250 and stuff like that, now they're getting like +140, +145. So big drop in terms of the attractiveness of the price there. And, I do have about twice as many bets on the Rams. So again, I kind of expect that for sure. And that's kind of, like I said, the total is about 60% over. The money line, I would say, is about 60, almost. It's almost bang on. 2 times more towards the Rams than the money line. So, no surprise there. I mean, people usually, public wise, they're just going to grab the plus money, and that's, no different here.
All right, so we move to the AFC Championship game here in New England and Kansas City, and I gotta say, I'm a little bit surprised to see a lot of 3 flats out there in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, New England's just getting love as they typically do. Again, my count's pretty much dead even. My money's pretty much dead even as well. So we never have a hard time getting money on New England. So I'm sitting at 3 flat. I know there are books out there 3 minus 115, but again, it's just we just always get a whole lot of New England money. It hasn't kind of come in and flooded in on them right now. Like I said, I am quite balanced on the spread itself right now. So never a problem getting New England money. I don't have sharp money on the side of this game either as well. So we're kind of just sitting at a decent spot. I'm just using the 110 each way, just because it seems to be the number that's working for us. I'm at 160 on the money line as well, and of course I've got more money, more bets on New England and money as well. Count-wise, this one is discount in terms of the money line you mentioned. I'm about 5-1 favoring the Patriots, so that's why I'm sitting at the 3 as well, because they're just grabbing the money with the Patriots on the money line. Spread's pretty much dead even, so I'm low because of that.
Now, obviously, with these 2 teams, with this being the later game, with there only being 2 games, significant amounts of money bet on this game, significant handle. Can you envision even something sharp in nature driving this number off of 3?
No. That's a short answer. It's the right answer. I just can't see this number budging. Again, it pretty much opened 3, and it's still sitting 3 as well. And it's in terms of if you wanted to put on your handicapping hat, if you will, and look into this game, there's you could really make a case for both these sides in terms of how they should be able to move the ball, and defensively how they're going to match up as well. I mean, Brady's they've got a really solid top offensive line. They got Brady's really quick with his releases and throws those quick slants and stuff to Edelman as well. I think Gronkowski's going to be, he has proven to be, people kind of sleeping on Gronkowski, I think, but he presents, a big matchup problem, I think, for the Chiefs. So I think he's going to, probably have a real decent day. And, Brady, obviously, with his, quick slants and stuff like that, to guys like Edelman, they ran the ball really well last time around as well with the 2 running backs sets that, caused a bit of problem for Kansas City. And, of course, Kansas City, I mean, they're going to have success as they always do. I mean, Hill and now with Watkins there, those 2, I think, are going to be real key. Maybe not so much Kelsey, although he did have a decent game last time out, and of course Williams has filled in quite well from a running back perspective. So I think it's going to be a good group effort from both sides in terms of what they'll be able to do. I mean, again, Patriots 2 running back sets were quite successful. Gronkowski is a problem for them. Edelman with the quick slants, and of course Brady just gets rid of the ball so quickly. I mean, last time around, I think Brady threw for almost 350 yards, and Mahomes did the same thing. Mahomes threw, a few. I think he threw 4 touchdown passes and got picked off twice, whereas Brady only threw 1 and didn't get picked off. So, it was really a back and forth game last time around. New England won that. That was New England 43-40 at New England. So I see this game setting up pretty much the same way in terms of the spread.
Well, and that leads us to the sharp action that you've gotten on this game, which is on the total.
Yeah, and again, I know weather is always a factor, and people talk about the weather a whole lot, but there comes a point where it gets exaggerated. And I am from Canada and back there. I mean, cold weather is just cold weather. There's no, but now that people put all these, these names to all this, an Arctic front storming in and this and that and stuff like that. I mean, cold weather is just cold weather, and I really shudder to think that anyone's going to be looking at Tom Brady and thinking he's going to struggle because it's cold. Mahomes, I mean, they're from Kansas City, so that's not going to be an issue for them either. So I don't think weather is an issue at all, but it did there was an overreaction to the market due to the cold weather reported. And again, sharp guys generally, just something to look out for. Generally, if sharp guys are going to play the weather angle, it's going to be wind, not cold. So this number, basically got bet down from, I think it was like 58.5, which was, we thought was the right number. Slowly ticked down, got the 54.5. Sharp guy money grabbed that right away over 54.5, and now we see it ticking back up. We're up to 56 right now. I think this number is probably going to close 57 or 57.5. I think it's going to close higher to where it opened at the 58.5. And again, too, if you look at there's no, I'm not going to say that 56 is like a key number, but when you're talking about 56, you're talking that's basically 8 touchdowns, just discounting how many field goals there are. And last time they played, there were 8 touchdowns as well. So you're basically at 56 with 8 touchdowns based on how the first game went. And I see this game kind of playing out similar there.
All right, so you and I were talking just before we started recording here about some potential Super Bowl 53 look-ahead lines, and the way that things look right now, I mean, you've got the 4 best scoring offenses. You've got numbers for the conference championship games sitting on 3. I mean, this is basically just, put up a -1 and a total in the upper 50s, low 60s, right?
Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a decent, I'm not going to say an easy, game for us, because nothing's ever easy, of course, in terms of balancing the action. But when stuff goes up, yeah, I mean, you're looking, I would imagine the Saints might be small favorites over both these teams. Probably, yeah, I mean, Chiefs and Rams, geez, it's like, yeah, you're basically looking, I think maybe the Rams would be like maybe a 1-point favorite over the Chiefs, and I think maybe the Patriots would be 1 over the Rams. But again, it's really, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to choose between these guys. I mean, basically pick any of the 4 matches and throw up a 1 or 1.5, and you'll probably be all right. Even the totals too, I think you're probably, no matter who is in the Super Bowl, you're going to be somewhere between 55.5 and maybe 59.5. I think maybe Kansas City being, one of the, if Kansas City's one of the 2 teams, I think you're talking about, maybe 57.5 all the way up there, maybe 59 up to 60 or 61. I think if it's like the Saints and Patriots, you're probably a little bit lower as well. But if the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, yeah, you can have a real high number. Spread-wise, yeah, as you touched on, pick a team 1.5. You can't really go all that wrong. I do think the Saints will probably be favored no matter who they play if they're in the Super Bowl. Rams would be a slight tick over the Chiefs, I believe, and the Patriots over the Rams, I also think, just because Patriots always get so much support in the big games. You got your Brady-Belichick connection.
Well, Brent, short and sweet, but good to chat with you here on this week's version of the Odds Report. Not a whole lot for us to talk about. It'll be the same thing next week, and then in 2 weeks' time, we'll talk a little bit more about the props. But always appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, I want to say, too, just one thing with respect to the Super Bowl futures and stuff like that. We're really in a decent spot here. We don't really get hurt. I mean, since this game came out, we did take a little more money on the Patriots in terms of them winning the Super Bowl. But your numbers are so low now, you really don't lose anything off that. And other than that, we do really well to whoever wins the Super Bowl. So heading into the big game, we're in a great spot, Adam.
Well, there you go. I mean, that sounds good. And I hope our listeners are in a very good spot here as well. But, hey, it'll be good to I guess, we might as well talk about this for just a second here, that with 4 really good offensive teams, the prop market's going to be all kinds of fun.
Yeah, well, it's going to be all kinds of crazy for us, fun for other people, yeah.
Well, Brent, always a treat to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy weekend to talk with us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Pleasure, Adam. Thank you.